Earliest musical memory?
For me?
Wolf, yeah.
Oh, I suppose the earliest one I have is, I didn't know my dad collected records until he got a gramophone, or he got the gramophone back.
Yeah.
The old wind-up ones that that he'd stored somewhere, and one night, it must have been about 6 or something like that, he put on, and it was the first time I'd ever heard a record, and it was Ghost Riders in the Sky. And the little thing, like that alpaca I'm wearing here, you know, this thing. Can you see that, the little Master's voice? I saw that on, the reason why I have that is I saw that on the record. Yeah. And just the sound of that sort of like, because it explodes out of the speakers. Yeah. And so that was my first memory, but coming from an Irish family, music is pretty much part of the background. People would sing after a few drinks and things like that. Yeah. And then when the rock and roll things started to happen, I had an older brother who really liked Buddy Holly, Everly Brothers and so on. So when the Beatles and that came through, it seemed like not that far away initially to the sound that the Everly Brothers would be doing. Yeah. And then at the same time, there was a girl who lived next door to me who was a traditional folk singer. And she heard me finger picking the guitar one day and said if I showed her how to do that finger picking pattern, I could borrow all her records. And being a folk person, she had records by people like Bert Jansch, and Donovan, and Bob Dylan, and Gordon Lightfoot. So as well as the rock and roll of the Rolling Stones and so forth, he started to investigate the solo acoustic players. And that's pretty much where I come from. I'm an amalgamation of all those things. And through them, you go backwards. You know, you hear somebody play a song and you think, who's Big Bill Brinsby? And then you find some recordings by him, Hank Williams, etc. And eventually you realise you're just one of a long line of troubadours stretching right back. Yeah. And the road goes on forever and the party never ends.
Yeah. That's good lyrics for a song, I reckon. What about you, Helena?
My father was really keen on music. He was a singer in classical, in a choir. But the first time I heard the cello, I was about 14, and a friend of mine, the daughter of a friend of my parents, played the cello, and that's the first time I've seen it, and I just completely fell in love with it. And I just absolutely pestered my dad to get me a cello of any kind. And then I was absolutely obsessed with it, and I just kept practicing and kept practicing.
Is it a hard instrument to learn?
It is, I suppose. Yeah, any string instrument is hard to learn. There are no frets. Everything's got to be done by ear. And I think the technique of getting a decent sound out of a cello takes a while, because you've got to have a good strong left hand to get the sound. Probably the same as a guitar to a certain extent. So yeah, I would say it does take quite a while to get it as you want it. Yeah.
Do you both remember your first ever gigs that you did?
Well, it would have been at the Torres song where Helena would come along and she'd ask, could you play a song? And
no, like your first ever gig.
My first ever gig?
Yeah.
It was probably something at a school.
Yeah.
And in those days, because finger picking wasn't as common as it was, as it's become, and I taught myself the finger picking pattern from listening to Doc Watson records. So I was able to, people wanted me to play backup guitar for them. So initially I was just backing people on the guitar. And then, when I listened to people like Bert Jansch and Donovan and so forth, I started to try and write my own songs, and went on from there.
First ever gig for you?
Well, if you're talking about cello as in the type of music I'm playing with Tom, my first time of doing it was actually with my daughter in London, and she was reading medicine at the time in her first year at university, and she'd met somebody who played the guitar, and they started to play some music together, and I joined them to start with on the cello, which was a new thing for me. So that was the first time I'd ever had a go at playing with guitar, really. So that must have been about 10 years ago. 11 years ago, and that was the first. Before that, it was all classical for me, all the way. So that was the first time for me.
What's the best gig you've done?
You always think the last one.
Or the next one.
The last one was pretty good. Enjoyed that. And after that, you can't remember them that much, and then sometimes you think it's a great gig, and then you hear a recording of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, a great gig, and you hear it back, it wasn't a great gig. and vice versa.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think you didn't play well, but then other people reacted and said it was one of the best times you played. It's always a mysterious thing, isn't it, as to what works.
Yeah, true.
Running a Tower of Song, we see many players and musicians and bands, and some have a set they go to and they stick to, and it becomes like almost like a machine.
Yeah.
And sometimes that'll go really well because it could be so tight,
yeah.
you know, but if that isn't where the atmosphere is at that moment, you can find yourself going down a track away from where the audience is in their heads. You know. So I like to leave it quite open, not really work the set lists, and just try to read the room and make something happen for the musicians and the people listening to it.
What's best gig you about the Tower of Song in all the time you've been running it?
Well, there's been so many, you know, and you start naming names, then people are really going to ring me up and say, "What about you?"
Can't wait.
That's true.
Yeah.
There'll be many great gigs there, you know, and again it would be subjective. You know, I like the original music. I like songs, you know, and there are songwriters that play there that I really like: Sam Cornwell, John Strong, Clayton Denwood, Bill O'Brien. These are people who write their own material and to a very high standard, and they're all great musicians. But I also love, there's a band play there called Midnight City who do soul music.
Right.
But they do it really well.
Yeah.
You know, they started off as fans of it, and now they are it, you know, because they do it for the love of it. They're brilliant players. Vo Fletcher, who you mentioned, a great guitar player and songwriter, and Catherine Howe's partner, both very classy music and playing it. I could go on and on. There's so many players, but already alarm bells are ringing because you're going to leave somebody out.
Is there anyone that hasn't been there that you'd like to get up there?
Yeah, I'd like to get Bob Dylan there.
Yeah.
Or the Rolling Stones, or anybody who I'd like to see them in that situation.
Yeah.
Rather than the stadiums and so forth that you're obliged to go to.
Yeah.
And you never know. I mean, the Rolling Stones, before big tours, they find some little place.
Yeah.
And in fact, Keith Richards in his book, somebody who quoted me a chapter from it where he described his ideal venue, you know, brick building with a bar, no distractions, it holds maybe 80 to 100 people. Yeah. And in many ways that's what that place is about. And you never know.
Wouldn't that be something?
That would be something, but you know, you can dream.
Well, yeah, dreams come true.
Sometimes it does.
Yeah.
So I'm told. Not a man house.
Do you ever play this way at all?
In Worcester?
Yeah.
Not for a while. I mean, I have played places in Worcester over the years, but since I started the Tower of Song, the only other places I've done, you know, apart from tours, I've been in and around Dudley, Wolverhampton, those sort of places, and in and around Birmingham. Yeah. But I have played at the Mars Bar. I played there a lot of years back, and a couple of other places, pubs that I can't remember the name of offhand. But at the moment, the only one I can think of here would be that. I don't know if there's any other venue around Worcester that you recommend for this sort of music.
Cellar Bar? King Dave, he knows everything.
No, go on, you're on the spot.
Oh, you're going to put the film on. You're going to film me and put me on the spot, are you? Cellar Bar, I'd say. Maybe the Chestnut, which is starting up. The guy who ran the Lamb and Flag at Malvern. Yeah. A few places. I'll give you a list after.
I certainly do, and I'll send them through the material and who knows.
Yeah. Okay. I'll compile a list.
Good man.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Time for another.
Okay. Every so often I try to write a country song, and they're very difficult because everybody in a sense knows where they're going as soon as you hear the thing. Yeah. So this isn't quite a country song, but it's as close as I come. Lifetime Guarantee.